about the 2024 budget that will be presented to Parliament on the 15th of November. That's just next week. And, you know, as you may be aware already, even before the presentation is done, you know, issues around the budget is generating controversy in Parliament. Some minority MPs are pushing to have the annual post-budget workshop in Parliament, you know, done in Accra instead of traveling outside of Accra. MPs are annually taken out of Accra for a residential workshop on the budget presented before debate and consideration. Parliament has been informed this year that post-budget workshop will be held from Friday 17th November to Sunday 19th November at the Rock City Hotel at Kwahu in the Eastern region. Now, we can listen to the Deputy Majority Leader in Parliament, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, whilst presenting the business statement for next week.
All-important economic policy of government is scheduled for Wednesday, the 15th of November 2023, and the Minister of Finance will come to this House fortified by Article 179 of the Constitution to meet that constitutional obligation to the people of Ghana. Soon thereafter, Mr. Speaker, we will be in your hands, and again, to enable members make input, enrich their debates, we have programmed Friday 17th of November to Sunday the 19th of November for our post-budget workshop. This time, we are moving to the east of the country. Specifically, will be at Kwahu Nkwetia in the eastern region, and members will be housed or will be accommodated at the Rock City Hotel, a Ghanaian facility. Mr. Speaker, it's not a foreign owned. Yes. Domestic tourism. Yeah. We were in Ho the last time. A Ghanaian owned facility. So, Mr. Speaker, will be.
All right, so that was the Deputy Majority Leader, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, presenting the business statement for next week, where he announced how the post-budget workshop would unfold before members of Parliament. Now, let me bring in the parliamentary correspondent, Kwaku Asante, who is joining me via Zoom. Kwaku, you're welcome to the pause. And my question is, why should a post-budget workshop generate controversy on the floor? It happens every year. Why should this year be different?
Well, that is the concern that, in fact, the Deputy Majority Leader himself speaks about. But the NDC MP for Boehm, Kofi Adams, is concerned that if you look at where the country's economy is currently, it is important that leadership at parliamentary level is shown to be making sacrifices. His concern says that if you go to Rock City Hotel and you're going to pay all that amount of money, there is something that you need to cut in. But of course, the concern, like you've just pointed out, is that this is something that has been done for so many years, so many times when the economy has been at some point of a stranglehold. This post-budget workshop has been held outside of Accra to afford MPs that relaxed atmosphere to be able to study the budget and come back and vote on it. Let's listen to NDC MP for Boehm, who raised that issue on the floor and demanded that it be held in Accra.
But I want to appeal to leadership, if it's possible, considering the government's plan to reduce expenditure and looking at the time that we have at our disposal to travel this far and be returning to commence sitting again on Monday, the 20th. If leadership can consider so, we have this budget workshop right here in the chamber. That could save us some money at this very critical time and use that for other purposes, it will help us so much. And we could demonstrate that Parliament is leading in tightening of the belt. At this time, we need to demonstrate that we are willing and prepared to sacrifice and cut some areas that we can cut. We have a very good environment here, especially when they have scheduled that we will commence the debate on Monday the 20th, and Friday the 17th, we are equally going to be sitting. Mr. Speaker, the Business Committee should rethink and consider that the savings that we will be making by organizing the workshop here would help to support many things. Yesterday we were talking about renal unit here. We have talked about the disaster that happened in Upper Volta and Lower Volta, and we are seeking to get some water to even support. We can use part of this to get water to support the flood victims. I think the leadership should I'm trying to persuade leadership.
So, Kwaku, this is the argument by the Member of Parliament for Buem, Kofi Adams. But I know that Honorable Afenyabakin spoke the mind of the Business Committee, which is made up of both the MPP and the NDC leaders in Parliament. And Kofi Adams appeared to be more interested in protecting the public purse. But I'm wondering the response that came from the majority side.
Well, clearly, like he said, he did not get that kind of support. In fact, even his leaders who were on the floor did not speak up on this matter. But according to Alexander Afenyabakin, this is a decision that has been taken by the 20-member Business Committee, made up of 10 members on both sides. So this is not just coming from the NDP side in Parliament. He insisted that MPs must be cautious of certain comments they make that put Parliament in a bad light. He's at pains to explain that this is something that has been done annually. This is not something that is going to burden the public purse, and that the MPs should not be seeking to make political capital out of that.
Last year, we were in Ho for the post-budget workshop, and all honorable members were there. The decision was by the Business Committee, made up of 10 from each side. The Business Committee is not only made up of leadership, it's made up of other members. So this is the decision of the committee. It is not about leaders being insensitive. I would want to encourage members to be mindful of their choice of words and the approach they take on some of these matters. It's very important. Otherwise, then we should say that we should not take salaries at all as members of Parliament, and we use all of that for community service. Such approach is not appropriate. We do so to mislead the public, and we, the political class, become victims of unfair perceptions about the work we do as parliamentarians. So I will encourage members to be mindful of the fallout of unintended comments in this floor.
All right, so that was the Deputy Majority Leader, Alexander Afenyabakin. I would like you to hold on for me briefly, because we've got some figures we want to break it down, because I know that in Parliament also, the President has put before the House some names that he intends to confirm their nomination to the Supreme Court. We know that the Appointment Committee will have to vet their suitability for the job that has been assigned them by the President. We'll come to that shortly, but let me bring in Kofi again. Kofi, so we've been doing our own analysis and putting figures together. As a former parliamentary correspondent, I know that members of Parliament, when they travel, for example, if they travel outside the country, wherever they go to, per their conditions of service, they are entitled to sleep in a 4-star hotel.
The best.
For example, if they should travel outside the country, they are to be flown via business class and all those issues. So it applies even locally.
Yeah.
Now we know that they are being taken to Rock City Hotel in the Eastern region, which according to the Ghana Tourism Authority is a 4-star hotel. Yeah. So what figures are we looking at?
So we decided to put some figures to this very conversation so that our viewers will understand the magnitude of what we are actually talking about. So we decided to go to Rock City's website to look at the, the room, the rate per night, and try to do some calculation to see how much Parliament is going to spend in this post-budget workshop. So we picked the lowest rate from Rock City, which is 775 cedis per month.
This is the basic standard room.
Exactly, the junior standard single. So if we do for all 275 MPs, just accommodation alone, we are looking at 39,375. So more
for the 3 days or for one night?
For the 3 days,
okay.
We are looking at 639,375 Ghana cedis for 3 nights. That's just accommodation alone. Now, if we extend this...
Let me emphasize, this figure is just for 275 members of Parliament.
Just the 275.
Because I know that with such an exercise as a post-budget workshop, you will find the staff from the Ministry of Finance, you will find consultants that are always invited to come and lecture the MPs on the matters in the budget. Sometimes the MPs travel with their drivers, so the provision is done for them to be accommodated, not sometimes in the main hotel that the MPs will sleep in, but in a different hotel. And then you have security personnel who also travel with them. Sometimes the media is also allowed into the opening and the closing ceremony. And these are all, but in these figures that we are presenting, this covers only 275 members of Parliament.
The estimation does not cover this group of people that we are talking about. And so, Elton, if we extend this to another part of the hotel, which is a standard, which will cost some 1,020 cedis per night. Then we are looking at, for the 3 nights that they will be spending there, Parliament will have to cough up 841,500 Ghana cedis. That's, let's say, close to 850,000 Ghana cedis. That's for just the 275 MPs. Now, if you go to, we've been engaging sources, and they've been giving us some figures. So we are looking at an average room rate of, let's say, 1,700 Ghana cedis. If we do the math, then we are looking at for the 3 days, some 1.4 million Ghana cedis per night for the 3 days. That's just the 275 MPs. And so, just like you said, if we add the other variables, so like the Speaker of Parliament, because he's not part of the 275, the staff, drivers, security, feeding, per diem, conference room, and even you mentioned the media, then we are anticipating that for them to be able to do this, you need not less than 2 million Ghana cedis for these 3 days that we are talking about, Elton.
Well, Kofi, those are the figures. And of course, let me bring in again Kwaku Asante parliamentary correspondent. So Kwaku, this is just estimates. I mean, we look at the standard hotel all the way to the very top. And like I indicated early on, members of Parliament, wherever they go, if they have to sleep in a hotel, the condition of service stipulate that they are accommodated in a 4-star hotel. But let me ask, so this business statement that was presented by Honorable Afinga-Markin has been accepted, right?
Nelson, come again.
I'm asking whether the business statement that was presented on the floor was accepted.
Well, yes, the business committee's report was endorsed, and so as it stands, from the 17th to the 19th of November, MPs will all go to Rock City Hotel. Of course, the calculation, part of it is even their V8, who is going to fuel it, so that they all go to Kwewu, because there's no airport there for them to fly there. So they are all going to drive in their V8s, their Land Cruisers, to Kwewu, and some of these costs sometimes will be borne by Parliament. So this is something that the MPs who raised the issue, led by Kofi Adams, did not get any success on. And so 17th to 19th November, that is going to happen at the Rock City Hotel. So
Kofi Adams was alone in this position, or he had support from other MPs?
Well, on the floor, he was alone. But of course, there are a number of MPs who came out who, when you are trying to speak to them off the record, they are really in support of what he said. In fact, last year, around the same time, a similar sentiment were raised on the floor of the House. Some MPs, again on the minority side, insisted. At the time, it was Kofi, the MP for Bodi, and a number of other MPs, Samsiahi, who raised those concerns on the floor, asking that this workshop be held within the precincts of Parliament.
In fact,
At the time, the promise was that
yeah, before you
next
go,
year
in fact,
we'll consider it.
It will not be the first time that such a program will take place in Parliament. As a former parliamentary correspondent, I remember that I participated in 3 of such post-budget workshops. First one was in Dodowa, the second one was in the Eastern Regional Capital, and then the third one was held in the Chamber of Parliament.
Right, right. So that is the concern people are raising now. This is where you do business. The budget itself will be read on the floor of the House. If you're going to bring resource persons to come and educate MPs as to the nitty-gritties of the budget, the technical aspect of the budget that so many MPs may not be qualified to understand, why are you taking us outside in terms of the cost, especially now that the country is at the IMF facing some economic challenges. But of course, he was alone on the floor. There was no support on either side of that position.
So the business statement was adopted, which means that the consensus is that Parliament will hold a post-budget workshop at Rock City in the Eastern region. But let's still stay in Parliament because President Akufo-Addo also took another step towards, filling the vacant seats at the Supreme Court by nominating 3 more individuals. Tell us more about it, Kwaku.
Yes, the president currently has 15 appointments to the Supreme Court. I mean, since he assumed office in 2017, he has appointed 15 persons to be on the court. He has now nominated 3 new persons. Before we get into the nitty-gritties, let's listen to First Deputy Speaker Joseph Osei-Wusu announcing the name of these 3 persons that the president has nominated to be confirmed by Parliament. According to the president, he believes these persons are qualified enough for Parliament to approve them.
To the satisfactory conclusion of the processes set out in Article 1442 of the Constitution, the following persons. 1. Justice Henry Anthony Kofi, Justice of Appeal. 2. Justice Yao Asaridako, Justice of Appeal. And 3. Justice Richard J. Frimpong, Justice of Appeal. On 27 July 2023, the Judicial Council advised me by letter under the hand of the Council's chairperson, Chief Justice Gertrude Araba Issa Basa Kintokonu, of the suitability of my nominations of these persons for appointment to the Supreme Court. Upon receipt of the Judicial Council's advice and in accordance with my duty under Article 1442, I consulted with the Council of State by submitting the names and curricula vitae of the nominees for appointment to the court. The Council of State has, by a letter dated 11th August 2023, notified me of the successful completion of the consultation process. I'm therefore, in accordance with Article 1442 of the Constitution, seeking the approval of Parliament for the appointment of the nominees as Justice of the Supreme Court. Their CVs are attached. I am fully satisfied that each of these persons is duly qualified and eminently fit to discharge the functions of a Justice of the Supreme Court. I have endorsed their respective CVs for your attention, and I await your response as soon as possible. I thank you in advance for your cooperation.
So, Kwaku, you're still with me. Is there any indication when the appointment committee will sit on the nominees?
Understanding is that is going to be as soon as possible because, as the president believes, there is an urgent need to put these 3 persons on the Supreme Court. There are currently 12 justices of the court, and these 3 will go and add up. It will be 15 on the court so that they can expeditiously deal with cases. But already the minority are raising cases. They are raising concerns. According to the NDC MP for Saudi, Roxanne Nelson Lafayette, there are serious concerns that they have about these 3 new persons who are going to end up on the court. They believe that the president is taking advantage of a lacuna in the Constitution to pad the court. We know that the Constitution of Ghana does not have a ceiling of judges that must go on the court. It means any president can appoint as many. But the consensus usually has been that you have 15 judges on the court. There are currently 12. That is why the president is seeking to add 3 more to be the usually acceptable 15. According to Roxanne, this is not acceptable, and they believe the president is doing something untoward.
I find it difficult to accept that the president will say that vacancies will be created because 3 other Supreme Court judges are retired. Now, your record will show that as we speak, we have 15 Supreme Court judges. Now, if the 3 are confirmed, no, he's appointed 15 Supreme Court judges. If these 3 nominees are also confirmed, that will make the number of his appointees at the Supreme Court since he assumed power in January 2017 to 18. But the evidence is that out of the 15 that we have, 3 have gone on retirement this year. So it means that we have 12 sitting Supreme Court judges who can actively serve the court. The full panel of the court is 9. So there's no vacancy at the court. Let the record reflect that I am saying that there's no vacancy at the Supreme Court to be filled. He is taking advantage of the constitutional lacuna for not placing a cap on the number of judges that can serve at the Supreme Court. So he has decided to increase the number from 12 to 15. So let the discussions be very clear and placed in context that as we speak, we don't have a vacancy at the Supreme Court as the president seeks to suggest. We have 12 Supreme Court judges who are capable of serving the court efficiently and effectively without any problem. Because a full panel of the court is 9. And on the average, the court is empaneled by 5 or 7 on regular basis. So I am shocked to hear that vacancies have been created when there are no such vacancies. The president is simply pardoning the court with more numbers.
Bakwaku, per the 1992 Constitution, the president has done no wrong. I'm guessing the majority has a response for this.
Yes, definitely. In fact, per the Constitution, there's no cap on the number of judges the president can appoint. And you heard there from the first deputy speaker, the president went through an elaborate process, starting from the council, the Judicial Council, through to the Council of State, and now has put these names before Parliament. I caught up with the majority chief, with Frank Anodom, who was clear that the president has done no wrong and that Roxy Nelson, the former and his colleagues in the NDC are just playing politics as usual with such a sensitive matter.
He is a lawyer. He should tell us the legal basis for that statement. That is a sweeping statement. It's not tenable. It's not based in law. So she should know better. I'm surprised my good friend Dafemekwa will make such a strange statement. Packing the court. What that's supposed to mean?
If these 3 new go through, Akufo-Addo would have 18.
Is the president on all fours in terms of the law?
Yes.
Yeah, so what's the problem?
He believes he's taking advantage of the constitutional lacuna.
This is a civil, we are practicing a civil, democracy. And we are in a democracy. So if you think that the president has abused any of the laws, he knows what to do. But I commend the president for having having determined that, okay, there's a problem, there's a space. And then he filled the space. What's he saying? You should wait for the people to exit before they appoint. It's most unfair. I think the president is on all fours right in terms of the law. And so the firm, of course, should know better. And he should be guarded. When we are speaking about law, I have a legal background. I'm not a lawyer, but I have a legal background. I don't expect people like him to speak like that. He should give it to their full soldiers to be making these accusations.
So let me wrap up with you from Parliament because the House is back on Tuesday.
The packed schedule. So Monday they'll be back. Normally they say from Tuesday to Friday. But because of the budget, they want to clear a lot of outstanding businesses, a lot of bills that they have to do. So on Monday they will set to try and finish up some of those businesses before the budget is read on Wednesday. And we are picking information that the Energy Minister has again been summoned to appear before the House. Yesterday we were expecting the National Security Minister to also come through. It didn't happen. Can you update us on these two matters? Well, yes, today as well, if you look at the other paper, the National Security Minister was advertised again to brief MPs on the Gari situation. He did not. In fact, at the time the business statement was read, an NDC MP raised that issue, and the Deputy Majority Leader explained that the leadership of the House had tasked him, Afenyo Markin, to liaise with the National Security Ministry on the situation. the update he had for the House was that all 8 persons who were arrested by the national security, flown to Accra, detained, put before court, and remanded, have all now been released. And so he does not believe there's any issue. So, of course, as of now, we do not expect that the National Security Minister will come before the House again. But that will be something we'll be looking forward to next week. When it comes to the Energy Minister,
yes,
he is still expected to come with VRA officials next week to the House at a committee of the whole. This will allow members of the VRA to actually be part of this meeting, because if it's a normal parliamentary sitting, it's only ministers, deputy ministers, and the president sometimes and the vice president who have audience on the floor. Any other person is deemed a stranger. So next week, if this committee of the whole sitting happens, VRA officials will now be allowed into this meeting. MPs will ask them questions, and then that will be taken care of. Because the minority have been pressing, they are demanding a committee of inquiry to be set up to investigate this matter. It is after this committee of the whole that there will be a determination as to whether there are more questions to be answered, then a final determination on a committee of parliament will be decided, Elton.
All right, so I guess we'll see you shortly on Ghana Connect, soon on Joy 99.7 FM. Koko Sante is our parliamentary correspondent, and you are still watching the polls.